we try to see how does this course help us to address key issues in the field of reproductive health. I will not say much about the courses we have covered so far or the content. What I will say, last time when we are closing, it is last week, but when we are closing the most recent lecture, there was a complaint that the slides were not moving. Yeah, if it happens, kindly you unmute your microphone and inform me so that I try to fix some of those issues and they don't reoccur. If the slides are not moving yet, the explanation is changing. So in today's lecture, allow me share my screen. I hope my screen is visible to each and everyone. The psychological theories of early growth and development. 2, we want to compare and contrast the limitations and strength of each theory on how children learn and develop. Here we note that early growth and development is influenced by biological factors as well as psychological processes. And psychological processes encompass aspects like cognition, emotion, social interaction, and other aspects in the field of psychology. These are important for scholars as they are vital in shaping individuals' development at that point in time, as well as the future. Some concepts now. Growth. When we talk about growth, we are referring to the physical changes such as increase in size or mass. I know those who have done economics, they have also interfaced with these concepts. One referring to growth, another referring to development. Whereas growth may mainly mean quantitative or size, development may bring in some qualitative aspects, basically encompassing physical, okay, including your size, cognitive, talking about what goes on in the mind, emotional, and social changes. Our desire to study development is basically to get insights into the holistic nature of human being. Growth and development, it has stages from right away when you were in the stomach, when you were in your mother's womb, up to when you die, or up to when you become old. So let us look at this early stage of life called fetal growth, from the word fetus. It occurs in distinct stages, right away from the time the sperm meets the ova of your mother to the time of birth. The factors that influences the growth of someone at the time when fertilization takes place to the time of may include things like genetics, the health of the mother, we are referring to as maternal health, nutrition, and some environmental factors. Environmental issues may affect someone's development right away before birth. If we understand fetal development, we are able to anticipate and address potential challenges. Apart from fetal growth, there is infant and child development. And we are referring to these as early stages of life. Let us start with infancy, which is basically a period between when somebody is born up to 2 years. And this period is marked by rapid physical and cognitive growth, including motor skills and language development. I hope those who either have children, who always associate with children, we have realized that between the time a child is born up to around 2 years, the body of the child changes shortly after leaving the mother's vaginal canal. And even you see the child, if for those who are able to monitor their children, the child is kind of thinking, or the mind you see starts responding to the environment, like when you touch, when you make some gestures. So there is some cognitive growth at that point. And the motor skills, motor we are meaning able to move the hand, to touch, okay? Actually, the child even starts kicking when he's in the stomach. When you want to feel the movements of the baby, you may touch the stomach. Somehow, maybe the child is trying to display motor skills. And then, between at this point of time, we also see the development in terms of the language. At this point, the child will start with a few things. I don't know why they start with the father. Here they will say ta, 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 like that. Another level in this early period is childhood, which is basically, in this context, the period ranging between 2 years to adolescence. And adolescence one is between 9, 10, 12 years. Amazanyalaze gundi kyo kinga mita eri awo mu gamba omwana nabaddeko yesterday nga ziri mu units nga 3 oba 3 oba 4. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Sam, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, your screen is clear.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So we are looking at stages of development. We have already talked about when somebody is a fetus, between fertilization to birth. We are talking about the early life of some of a human being. I mean the early stages of human being, which includes the one when someone is an infant. We are referring to as infancy. And in terms of time, it is just a period between 0 years to 2 years. And I've already explained. Then the other one is childhood. And in this context, we are referring to a period between 2 years and adolescence. Adolescence may peak at around 9 years. And here, just like infancy, there is some cognitive development, there is socialization. At this point, children will have peers and self-identity formation. Like a child is able to recognize that I'm a girl, and maybe they may mainly associate with girls. There are sensitive periods in these stages, and a number of milestones are also noted at this particular point, which may vary depending on the what? On the person. What are the factors that influence growth and development? One, we may talk about genetic factors, and those factors that you may be predisposed to. For example, you may find that some of us, our growth is mainly a function of characteristics inherited from your parents, or as a result of some other factors like nutrition, which we are referring to as predispositions. Additionally, environmental factors including nutrition, exposure to toxins in the environment, access to health care, also significantly influence somebody's growth and development. And when we talk about growth and development, are there scholars that have tried to contemplate about these issues called growth and development? Yes. One of them is called Jean Piaget, and Jean Piaget is or was a Swiss psychologist. Additionally, we also talk about Erikson theory of psychosocial stages. Erikson was a German as well as an American psychologist. I think he had double citizenship. These two scholars provide that some explanation we are referring to as frameworks to understand the growth and development. We note that theories are important, not only Erikson and Piaget's theory, but theories in general are important as they guide the research and the practical applications in so many areas, including development psychology. What does Piaget...
Excuse, sir. Your slide is not moving.
Yes, what are you seeing on your desktops?
Theoretical frameworks.
What is the next subheading? The one in bold, what is it?
In both is Piaget's cognitive development theory.
Good. Now I'm sure that we are on the same page. So in his cognitive development theory, he focuses on how children actively construct knowledge and understand the world around them as they grow. So this particular gentleman studied children and was seeing how children were trying to make a sense of the environment around them, to the extent that he could see differences in how these children responded or made mistakes in trying to undertake their tasks. Have your screen changed? I want just to be sure. Has your screen changed?
Mine has not yet changed.
Sure. Has it changed? Can you read for me what you are seeing on your screen?
It's still the previous slide that we have just explained.
Oh, what could be the problem now? What are you seeing? Is it the same? Can someone unmute and respond? Are we still seeing the same screen?
No.
This is a key concept in Piaget theory.
Yeah. Maybe let me change from full screen to... So in the Piaget theory, we talk about the schema, and this is mainly about mental frameworks or structure that help individuals organize and interpret information. According to Piaget, he also uses another concept called assimilation. And in this context, he is refining the process of fitting new information into existing schemas. So to him, he believes that a child has some sort of scheme where he or she puts and interprets information. Then the new information will come and fit in existing kind of schemas. And then the other concept he uses is in his theory is adjustment of existing schemas to accommodate new information, which he refers to as accommodation. Stages of development according to Piaget in his cognitive development theory are as follows. One, he recognizes that in child development there is a stage he refers to as sensory motor stage. The second one is pre-operational stage. The third one is operational stage, and the fourth one we'll talk about it. Now, so sensory motor stage, which is basically from birth up to when somebody is 2 years old. At this stage, according to Piaget, infants explore the world through their senses. Okay? So from birth, from birth up to when somebody is 2 years, Piaget observed a number of children he studied, and he realized that they were trying to understand what they were, the environment where they were thriving through their senses. And what are their senses? Through touching, through seeing, through smelling, and those other senses of the body. And motor actions like moving hands, the legs, and gradually developing object what? Permanence. That is recognizing objects. The second stage, according to Piaget, is pre-operational stage. According to Piaget, this stage peaks at around 2 years and it ends when somebody is 7 years old. At this point, children use symbols and language. This theory is very interesting. You realize that this stage children can respond to symbols. Like if you want to tell a child to come, you can signal when a child is 3 years and can come. And then they try to develop some language. But thinking is still egocentric, according to this scholar. And at this point, children lack a logical reasoning. What do we mean by egocentric? At this point, children will say, this is my dad, this is my, doesn't even mind whether this dad is also shared by other people. So that is being egocentric. And there is no logical reasoning. Like the child will tell you, this is my dad, but cannot explain why she is attached to you as her dad. No, she doesn't have that logical reasoning. So Piaget recognized that at pre-operational stage, children characteristically demonstrate those key issues. The third stage, according to Piaget again, is the concrete operational stage, which according to him is basically a child between 7 to 11 years, and the child will try to depict the following features through this period. Children think logically and understand conservation. So at this point, children start to reason, to relate issues, and may already surprise you with some logical kind of reasoning at this point. The fourth stage is the formal operational stage, and at this point is when somebody is 11 years or older. According to Piaget, he looks at people in this stage as mainly being adolescents and adults who think in abstract terms and try to even have some hypothesis. They always engage in complex problem solving. So what we should know that theories are subject to scrutiny. So it is up to you. Do you agree with Piaget's views here in terms of development? Does he try to depict the way someone develops across the life course? And is it possible so to say that beyond from operational stage, we don't expect other futures to emerge beyond what Piaget explains here? So those can be really issues of discussions for you as scholars, since theories can be subjected also to tests. Now, what is the implication of some of these theories, especially Piaget? Here, we see that he is actually emphasizing the active role of learners in constructing knowledge. You see, Piaget is talking about how the learner himself makes sense of the environment, and it is very, very important because learning is not only very important in the field of education, but you can also see that learning is very important in the field of public health, in the field of reproductive health. If we want to handle issues of health promotion, where do you start from? You start with learning. So Piaget's theory is very important for us to understand that learners also have an active role to play. The importance of developmentally appropriate activities. So at this point, like if you want intervention is towards the children, then you have to know their characteristics according to this theory, and then select activities that are appropriate for that stage in terms of development. And he also reminds us that the notion that cognitive development occurs in qualitative distinct stages. I'm not sure whether we have overlap. That is an issue that can be subject to discussion or to further research. Yes, as the screen changed. Someone
Yes.
unmute and update me about whether we're on the same page.
Erickson psychosocial stages.
Thank you very much. That is where I want us to be, all of us. And there is another scholar whom I already told you that is a German and American psychologist. He also offered an explanation on development psychology. According to Erickson, he focuses on the social and emotional aspects of human development across the life course. His theory incorporates social and emotional dimensions, and this is some strong aspects that Eliki's reasoning moves a step forward as compared to Piaget. According to Erickson, human development is a function of psychosocial crisis. And according to him, at each stage, because Erickson presents growth as a function of 8 stages, and he presents these stages with what he calls psychosocial crisis. Characterized by a number of 2 conflicting what? Forces. When you check Erickson's theory, he tries to present development as if it is a sequence of stages, and in these stages identifies a number of issues of conflict. And therefore, in his argument, he states that if a child or a person is provided with good conditions, then he may develop the positive attribute of that opposite conflicting kind of aspects. Otherwise, if conditions are unfavorable, then the person may develop the negative part of the what? Of the conflict. For example, he divides the growth and development into 8 stages. One of them is, for example, infancy. And at infancy, Erickson says that here a child may either develop trust or mistrust, depending on what the child goes through. For example, if the child develops trust, that means he will develop trust in caregivers and the world. The second stage that is highlighted by Erickson is the toddler stage. And according to Erickson, at toddler stage, there are 2 conflicting psychosocial issues. Either someone develops with a lot of autonomy, or somebody develops in total shame and doubt. And at this point, if a child is provided with the adequate conditions, it helps the child to gain independence and learn the limits. Another stage, according to Erickson, is the preschool stage. And at the preschool stage, according to Erickson, a child may become initiative, or may instead feel may feel a situation of being guilty. And if a child is given sufficient conditions, it helps him or her in exploring the environment and and developing a sense of purpose. The other stage of development, according to Erikson, is called the elementary school, and there are two conflicting issues at elementary level, where a child has issues of either industry or inferiority. And if a child is given enabling conditions, it helps the child to achieve competence in tasks and skills. Another stage, according to Erikson, is adolescence. And the conflicting psychosocial issues, according to Erikson, is identity versus role confusion. According to Erikson, if a child is given favorable conditions or a person at this stage, it is a point at which someone forms a clear sense of self-identity, of self and identity. The other stage, I think the sixth stage, according to Erikson, is the younger adulthood. In the conventional terms, I think it is early adulthood. And according to Erikson, the conflicting psychosocial issues here are intimacy and isolation. According to him, if a person is given favorable conditions, at this point, the person is able to establish meaningful relationships. And I think you can see that these life course theories help us to understand why things are happening that way and which intervention is doing into trigger into action. The second last stage of development, according to the scholar, is the middle adulthood. And at middle adulthood, Erikson identifies two conflicting psychosocial issues or forces, that is generativity and stagnation. And at this point, if the person is granted favorable conditions, he contributes to society and guides the next generation. The last stage, according to Erikson, is termed as the late adulthood. And the conflicting issues identified by Erikson here is ego integrity. Ego means being selfish versus despair. And at this point, if somebody went through sufficient conditions, it helps in reflecting on life and achieving satisfaction. As I said, to what extent do you agree with Erikson's theory? Because as scholars, our main task is always to interrogate these theories and try to understand how much they conform to reality. Like if you go through these stages of Erikson, do you try to see that a person goes ideally through those stages? And do you agree that at each point there are conflicting issues which may either be adopted by a person, either adopting a positive one or a negative one, and therefore having an impact on the way the person behaves and conducts? Those are questions that you may pose for discussion or for research as scholars in the field of reproductive health. And two, they also help us maybe understand behavior. Like according to this theory, you can see that maybe if somebody is naturally well, may adopt the positive attribute. Then with unfavorable conditions, may adopt the other side of the what? Of the conflicting psychosocial issues. And therefore, it may need taking appropriate what? Interventions. So as I have said, now how important are these? They're important for the interventions but also understanding what influences what. For instance, in the field of medicine, you may have medical interventions like hormone therapy or surgical procedures to address issues related to development. We can also appreciate that environmental influences can even include parental nurturing, can even include education opportunities and access to resources. And finally, it may help us to appreciate the ethical considerations that involve balancing interventionist benefits against the potential what? Risks. In development, as we may look just ahead of us, we may see that, however, there may be challenges in development, including disability. Maybe you may need to also establish what disability is. But what could be the impact? People with disabilities face unique psychological and developmental what? Challenges. And some of them may be physical limitations, like if your limbs are affected. At times, people with disabilities face social stigma, and it becomes a psychosocial issue, as well as mental health issues. Therefore, support systems and strategies should aim at enhancing their quality of life and fostering their positive development. We should look at their strength and support them. Notwithstanding their disability status. We have also looked at somewhere where one scholar is referring to among those excuse me, those stages of development was referring to a stage where somebody develops self and identity. And if I am not mistaken, that is Erikson. So what do we mean by gender identity formation? What is, first of all, what is gender identity? Gender identity is a personal and internal sense of one's self as male, female, or otherwise. And another sister concept of gender identity is gender expression, which is the way in which an individual publicly expresses their gender. For example, through aspects such as clothing, hair makeups, and the body language. In this case, gender expression can but does not always reflect a person's gender identity. Psychosocial processes influence gender identity development, such as socialization, cultural norms, and personal experience. Recognizing diverse gender identities promotes inclusivity and understanding. As scholars, we have a role to recognize the diverse nature of gender identities so that we are accommodative, understanding, and we provide for an inclusive environment. Variation in terms of gender and sex are a function of a number of issues which may even be complex, such as biological, psychological, and sociocultural, which may be as a result of one of them or a combination or an interplay of them. And understanding such factors contributes to acceptance and respect of diverse gender experiences. Are we on the same page? Can I hear someone informing me about whether we're on the same page?
Yes, we are.
Can you read for me the heading?
Growth and development disorders.
Thank you. Now, after exploring theories about development, one by Piaget and another one by Erikson, so we also note very important issues about the growth and development. What are these? Despite us recognizing the stages of growth, but growth is not as smooth as it may be explained by the theories. There are also disorders that may develop along the course of growth and development. Some of them are growth hormone deficiency. And we are saying that this disorder produces inefficient growth hormone, leading to stunted growth in children and potentially affecting bone density and muscle mass. So you find that some people are too short, others are too small. That means that there was a challenge in their growth, which may be the growth hormone deficiency, and they may need some intervention to help them cope with life. Another problem or another growth disorder is the precocious puberty. In this condition, the children experience the onset of puberty at an abnormally early stage, affecting both physical and emotional development. I was told that some girls may start to menstruate at around 5 years, 6 years. And these are some of the growth disorders. That child may not be okay to start having menses at 6 years. May not be okay. So it may have an issue with her cognitive kind of arrangement and socialization. Another growth order we may want to bring our attention to is failure to thrive. And it is characterized by inadequate weight gain and growth in infants and younger children due to various factors, including inadequate nutrition. So at times you may fail to get the required weight, and we may refer to this disorder as failure to thrive, growth disorder. Other developmental disorders are autism, spectrum disorder, we are abbreviating as ASD, which encompasses various developmental disorders affecting social interaction, communication, and behavior. It typically appears in early childhood and varies in severity. With spectrum, it affects the nervous system, and it affects the child in terms of communication and some other issues that may arise, called a situation or a condition called autism. Another development disorder is attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder, abbreviated as ADHD, and is basically characterized by difficulties in someone having attention. I don't know whether I've heard people who cannot really pay attention to something for some time. Hyperactivity, or when somebody reacts by impulsivity. It affects academic and social functioning. Another one is there is another form of specific learning disabilities. So there are some developmental disorders called specific learning disabilities, and examples are dyslexia. What is dyslexia? Dyslexia is a condition that affects the nervous system and therefore affects the neurodevelopment. It affects the ease with which a person reads, writes, and spells and makes spellings. It is among the disorder associated with learning in children. Another one is the dyscalculia disorder. And this is basically when somebody has problem with numeracy. You ask someone 2 + 3 doesn't know or has challenges in completing issues to do with mathematics. So those learning disorders or disabilities may be referred to as dyscalculia. And then the other one is dysgraphia. You may have a problem with your nervous system and it may affect you, and you are unable to write. The handwriting is poor. I don't know whether you have had such colleagues who have problems with writing. This may require different interventions in order to be able to cope. Other forms of disorders we may need to explore are associated with emotions and behavior. One is anxiety disorder. These are conditions generalized as anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, and separation anxiety disorder. These are broad concepts that you may need to explore into details and understand what they entail. And it can hinder emotional development and daily functioning. Another form of emotional or and behavioral disorder is the mood disorder, like depression, bipolar disorder, which can disrupt emotional and social development, affecting mood regulation and behavior. People with mood disorders at times can be too excited, and again it becomes too angry. So those extremes, I've had a colleague, are dangerous. Somebody may commit suicide because of those extremes. So those are called the mood disorders. And the one I was talking about are the bipolar issues. They are too excited, either too excited or too angry. And in such circumstances, you have issues. When you get too angry, you may even think about suicide. So they may need interventions. Another one is the motor disorders. Motor disorders, which include cerebral palsy, which is another form of motor disorder caused by brain damage during or after birth, and it results into difficulty in movement and muscle coordination. There is also development coordination disorder, which affects motor skills. And when I talk about motor skills, it's about the movement of the body, okay? You are able to touch, you are able to kick, okay? So how comes that some people cannot move, they have some of those problems. You cannot freely move the legs while walking. They have at times those behavioral disorder and coordination. They have challenges in writing sports day tasks. We may also talk about eating and feeding disorders, where we may have conditions like anorexia nervosa, which is about somebody think that he may be overweight and he refuses to eat. And that ends up affecting his health. And it may be the same case with children having feeding disorders in infants, which is may be referred to as infantile anorexia, where a child is not able to feed, doesn't want to feed. So these may be some of the emotional and behavioral disorders. Another category of disorder, of growth and development disorder, we can talk about communication disorders. One is speech sound disorders, and these disorders affect the production of speech sound, leading to difficulties in clear and intelligible communication. For example, we know some of our colleagues have problems in speaking, like others are stammering. Somebody wants to say psychology, will say okay? So those can be speech disorders. Times when you are in public health, maybe you're engaging in counseling people, you need to understand and give them time so that you are able to communicate with them. Otherwise, if you assume that everybody is okay, then you may have issues. So it is about understanding some of these issues in growth and development. Others are language disorders. These are like expressive or receptive language disorder, which hinder a person's ability to understand and use language what? Effectively. Sometimes they may not fail to receive your communication because of language disorders. Another one is intellectual and developmental disabilities, and among them is intellectual disabilities, where we have conditions characterized by intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior limitations affecting learning and daily life what? Skills. When somebody cannot, even can't go to the latrine, these are issues to do with intellectual disabilities. Even those so simple skills, wash your hands, okay? That means somebody has growth and development what? Disorders in the line of intellectual disabilities. Other communication disorders are Down syndrome, which is a genetic disorder that causes intellectual and development delays and physical characteristics such as distinctive partial features. The others are social and behavior disorders. Among them, we have oppositional defiant disorder, ODD, which is characterized by defiant and disruptive behavior. I don't want to mention that people who are raised in opposition have this, but at times you see that they have a defiant and disruptive behavior, often leading to conflict with authority figures and the peers. So at times, if you are in a group, so you are managing group dynamics, you may need to study these conditions and see this person may be having some disorders, and therefore they may require a different way of handling, not necessarily punishing them for their way for their nature, because these are disorders. Then the other form of social and behavior disorder is conduct disorder, and it involves severe antisocial behavior. Others are too aggressive, thieves, and they violate rules and laws. I don't know which examples I can give, because these may be disorders, but also we may also need to investigate and see whether what we are spelling out here is not as a result of other factors, like is aggression a conduct disorder or some other factors. Violation of rules, is it as that and laws? So this may require, but these are times disorders as they have been established scientifically. How do we assess growth and development? There are various methods and tools. One of them is developmental milestones chart. You may need to look at this in details and see how it works in case you want to do a study investigating growth and development. We may do psychological assessments, and these may be important in helping to evaluate growth and development. We may also conduct area assessments and interventions for addressing developmental challenges in an effective manner. Approaches to treatment of development and growth disorders. We may need evidence-based approaches to address development challenges, such as speech therapy. You saw we had some communication disorder, so we can have speech therapy. We can have people in that area do that work. We may have physical therapy, which may involve like a massage to resuscitate your nervous system, and the other behavioral intervention is like behavior change interventions and etc. Additionally, we may need to deploy a multidisciplinary and holistic approach to consider development in terms of physical, psychological, and social aspects. So we may need to develop an approach that handles people's development needs in a number of areas, including handling the physical issues, psychological issues, and the social issues. So for now, I want to say thank you for attending today's lecture.